Hey guys, it's Mr. Blazik. I hope you guys are all doing well. As always, I'm back with what is, I guess, a weekly video series. This is our third week. This week we are looking at taxes and tips, which is something that we learned back in September, but I'm sure we've forgotten plenty of it, so I figured we'd go over some of it. So starting off, we have our definition for tax and our definition for tips. We're starting off with tax, which is something that everybody hates paying, but are a necessity. And the tax is just like extra money that you have to pay towards the government. And that money is used for any type of public service like roads, schools, or anything else that the government does for us. So basically, for us to have any type of society, we need some amount of taxes to pay for things. And so whenever you buy something, you get charged a tax on that, which is just extra money on top of whatever you're paying that goes towards the government. There's other kind of taxing as well. You can have money taken out of your paycheck as well that goes to the government. But we're mostly focusing on what we call a sales tax, which is the money that you pay when you purchase something. And the other thing we're covering are tips, which is also just an extra amount of money that you're paying. And this is when you receive some type of service. You obviously have seen people tipping at restaurants. You can also tip for taxi drivers and things like that. Tipping is technically voluntary. You don't have to tip. You're probably not going to be considered a very nice person if you don't tip, but it is technically not something that you have to do. Compared to taxes, taxes are something that you have to pay. You don't really have a choice in the matter there. Regardless, most people pay taxes and most people pay tips. And so it's important for us to know, how do we actually figure out how much we're paying in taxes and how much we're paying in tips. So we're going to go over that today. One other thing that I have on the screen for us, I have that a tip is the same thing as a gratuity, because we learned in class a tip as a gratuity. So we've heard that term both ways. Now, when it comes to tipping, there's usually kind of 3 different percents that people normally tip. And it's dependent on how good of service you receive. So if you received really bad service from your waiter, they took forever bringing out your food, they spit in your food, whatever, give them 10%. Probably give them less than 10% if they spit in my food. But you get the point. Give them 10%. If you get average service, you would tip 15%. And if you had really good service, you would tip 20%. And those percents are based off of the cost of your meal, which means that if you have a more expensive meal, then you are going to end up tipping more as well. Now, for taxes, it depends on where you are buying things for how much you need to pay in taxes. So today we're just going to focus on how much you pay for things in Arizona. So the Arizona sales tax rate is 5.6%, which is less than you would pay for a tip. If you're paying even the worst tip normally, it's about half of what the worst tip would be. And kind of think of your tax as that. So one thing to think of when you're comparing your taxes and your taxes should almost always be lower than your tip. So when you're trying to figure out your taxes and your tips, you should usually get a lower number here for your tax than you should get for your tips. Okay, so let's take a look at an example problem. We have before us Mr. B orders a pizza that costs $14. He gave a tip of 15%. How much did the tip cost him? So this problem here, we're just trying to figure out the cost of the tip. So we know the pizza costed $14. We want to know, how much extra money am I giving to just the delivery driver, basically. Now, regardless of whether you are solving a tip problem or a tax problem, we solve these in the exact same way. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our percentage of 15%, and we are going to convert that percent to a decimal. So I'm going to list out the steps down here. So first step is convert your percent to a decimal. So we need to convert 15% to a decimal. We do that by taking the 15 here, and we are going to move the decimal 2 place values to the left. Well, right now there's not a decimal in this number at all, so we need to add a decimal. If we had the number 15, our decimal would go right here. You can think of it as if we had $15, it would be 15.00. So that's where our decimal would go. We need to move it over 2 place values to the left. That would be 1 place value there, 2 place values there, which means 15% turns into 0.15. So as a decimal, we now have 0.15. So now that we have our percent as a decimal, our second step is to take this decimal and we need to multiply that times our original cost of $14. So we're going to multiply 0.15 times $14. So our second step is to multiply your decimal times your original cost. So we are multiplying $14 times 0.15. So 14 times 0.15. Walking through the multiplication, we have 5 times 4 would be 20. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. And we're moving to our next place value, so we skip our ones place here. Now we have 1 times 4 would be 4. 1 times 1 is 1. And we add that together. Oh, I don't know where that just went. All right, well, that's back now at least. We add this together. This will give us 0, 11. 1 plus 1 is 2. And our decimal, we would need to move it over 2 place values down here, which is going to give us 2.1. So what we just figured out is the tip that we are giving. So we are giving a tip of $2.10. So that is our tip. The question only wanted us to figure out our tip. So for this part of the problem, we'd be done. Okay. Now, let's look at what would we do if it had us solving for a tax as well. Okay, so I've left our previous answer to the last problem up here. Our tip is $2.10, and we have a new problem down here. And so we have a problem about the sales tax, and it says that the restaurant also charges Mr. B the standard 5.6% Arizona sales tax. How much did the tax cost him? So again, we're going to use the exact same we used for the last problem. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to convert our percent to a decimal. So in this case, this problem here, our percent is 5.6%. And we're going to convert that percent in the exact same way. So we're going to take that number, 5.6, and we're going to move our decimal 2 place values to the left. So that's going to be 1 place value here, and we need to move it 2 place values. There's not a number here, so we're going to add a 0 to that place value. And we move that decimal again. We said 2 place values, 1, 2, which is going to give us 0.056. So 5.6% as a decimal is going to be 0.056. Now, our second step is to take that number that we just got and multiply that times the original cost of the pizza. So in this case, my pizza costed me $14. So I'm going to multiply $14 times the cost, or excuse me, times the decimal. So 14. I'm going to put the number with more place values up top. So 0.056 is going to go up top. 0.056 times 14. Going through the multiplication here, we have 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 5 is 20. Plus 2 is 22. 4 times 0 is 0. Plus 2 is 2. Skip your place value here. Oh, let me fix that 0. A little better. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 0 is 0. Okay, and we add this together. That would give us 4, 8, and 7. And we can put in that 0, sure. We need to move over our our decimal 3 place values, because that's where that was moved over. And where did my problem go again? Okay, there we go. We got our problem back. So our decimal needs to be moved over 3 place values here. So 1, 2, 3 goes right there, which gives us a tax of 0.784. And I'm going to round that to our that'd be our hundredths place. That's our tenths, then our hundredths, which is going to give us 0.78. Which means that we basically paid 78 cents in tax. So again, the tip was $2.10 and the tax was 78 cents. This makes sense. As we said earlier, our tax is almost always going to be a smaller number than our tip. Okay, the last thing that I want to do, I've written in one last question for us, and this is probably the most important question, is going to be, what was the total cost? So I know the extra tip that I paid, I know the extra tax that I paid, but how much is this actually going to cost in total now? And to figure that out, we are now going to take the original cost and add it to my tip and add it to my tax. So we just need to add up all of our numbers from our problem. So our original cost was $14. My tip is $2.10. And as I always tell you guys in class, you need to line up your decimals. Otherwise, your problem is going to be way wrong. So those are where your decimals would line up. And we're going to add our tax of 0.78 as well. Again, line up your decimals. And add those three costs together. 0 plus 0 plus 8 is 8. 0 plus 1 plus 7 is 8. Decimal goes there. 4 plus 2 is 6. And 1 plus nothing is 1. So in total, including the tip, including the tax, I paid $16.88 for everything. For a delicious dinner. Okay, that is all that we are going to cover today for taxes and tips. Remember your steps, very simply, convert your percent to a decimal, convert that decimal, multiply that decimal times the original cost, and then if you need to figure out your total, then you add that to your original. Just to wrap up this video, thank you guys for watching. As always, I do miss you guys. Just to wrap up this video, I just want to say I miss you guys all a lot. As always, I hope you guys are doing well. I didn't get around to posting as much this week as I would have liked to. Next week, I'm hopefully going to be able to post a little bit more for our Google Classroom. I'm going to try to post at least one lesson a day, if not at least one every 2 days. I hope you guys are doing well. Like I said, I hope this video was helpful. Hopefully, you guys are able to do your Kahoot. Thank you guys to those of you who have done your quizzes already. It's awesome to see. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.